Hey everybody. So, do you remember what an angiosperm is? And just join me here with this really pretty look at all the wild woods. And there we have definitely an angiosperm. Hope you remember that an angiosperm is a flowering plant. So today we're going to talk about the reproduction of gymnosperms. So what's a gymnosperm? A gymnosperm is a conifer, okay? It's cone bearing. So how do cone bearing plants, gymnosperms, reproduce if not through flowers? Well, they're cones. So actually, see all those little tiny things that look sort of like bananas? That's the way I think of them. There we go. Those are actually male cones. So what is the gamete? What's the male gamete of a plant? Pollen. So those are normally covered in yellow pollen, and most of the pollen's been already blown off of these, but when they're covered in pollen, they're all very, very yellow. So those are actually male cones. So we have to have a male and a female. So what are the female cones? Let's see if we can find one. There's some female cones now. So these larger cones that we actually think of as pine cones are actually the female cones. So when they're very, very green, they're younger, unfertilized, and they have a tiny little hole in them called, and look, there's a bunch of little male cones around there too. They have a tiny little hole in them called a micropyle. That's a tiny little hole, microscopic hole, that the pollen, when the pollen gets blown around, the pollen goes into the micropyle and actually fertilizes the ovule in the female cone. And then the female cone gets a little bit bigger and mature. There's some up there in the trees. And it turns brown and opens up and releases the pine seeds. And the pine seeds will start a whole new tree. So when it releases the seeds are not surrounded by any kind of fleshy area like a fruit, right? It's not surrounded by something like a plum seed is. So gymnosperm we call a naked seed because of that. Naked seed is the literal translation for gymnosperm. So the important things to know about the gymnosperm reproduction is that these little tiny things that we don't really think of as cones, but they actually are male pine cones, are covered in the male gamete, which is pollen. And the pollen gets blown around by the wind, gets blown up into the green female cones, which then turn brown and open up and release the seeds. Okay, the ovules that have been fertilized by the male gamete. So that is a very easy reproduction of gymnosperms. So you should now know what a gymnosperm is and what an angiosperm is and what a gamete is. How come I'm not focusing? What a gamete is. So make sure you know those terms. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.